Hello, and welcome back to Zoo Miami for part 2 of their amazing Amazon and Beyond exhibit. If you are behind and haven't watched part 1, exit this right now and click on that card in the corner. For those of you that are caught up, you know the drill. Before we begin, I want you to get the comments rolling and tell us what's one thing you like about your zoo and one thing that you dislike about your local zoo. From the cloud forest, we are now moving on into the land of giants section with 21 exhibits versus 31 in the last drill. So it may be a little smaller. It's not like I'm playing favorites though, but the animals here are way more interesting. I know it's not the right place geographically, but life only gives you so many chances to do your best Steve Irwin impression, and this is one of them. When I said we've barely made a dent into Amazon's reptile and amphibian collection, I wasn't really exaggerating. The second trail begins exactly like the first one does, with the wriggly and the weird. Not everything in this land of giants is giant, but I guess Caecilians are bigger than some people would like them to be. This is their 5th feature on the channel, and I still want to see more. It's not an eel, it's not a worm, it's an amphibian related to salamanders and frogs. And as if they weren't cool enough, if you can get close enough to their mouths, you will see that they have 3 rows of teeth. Beaded lizards, black-tailed pitvipers, and they have this little river monster that goes by the name of the green anaconda. Those that have been following along this series, you saw the yellow anaconda that maxes at around 15 feet and 110 or so lbs. Impressive. But let's see the green anaconda's numbers. Maximum weight of 550 pounds, 1 foot wide, and 29 feet long. Although their average numbers are just a little lower, this is still the heaviest snake on the planet. Okay, I want to get serious for a second. Orinoco crocodiles, often called South America's largest predator, are also critically endangered. Hunted for their meat, skin, and teeth. As little as 250 have a relatively small range in Venezuela and Colombia. Zoo Miami has been breeding them for decades, and some of the hatchlings are displayed in Amazon and Beyond's entrance. Some are sent to other facilities, and others are prepared for release into the wild. And other not-so-real hatchlings can be found in a nest next to the larger crocs, and if you cross them, they have something to say. While Zoo Miami does their thing, I also gotta shout out the Dragonwood Wildlife Conservancy, a non-profit dedicated to preserving and researching endangered species, primarily reptiles and amphibians, including the Orinoco Crocodile. After speaking to some of the passionate owners and volunteers and holding some of their living ambassadors, I wanted us to help out in some way. So if you have like $1 million or $2 million to spare, there's a link in the comments where you can make your donation to this organization. Part of Amazon and Beyond's appeal is that it feels like a true tropical forest. Not just because of the animals, not just because of the plants, but South Florida is one of the few parts of America that's actually considered tropical. I appreciate the immersion, but even in November, I'll just say it was so nice to be inside. Building number 1 was mostly a herpetarium, and this one, well, it doesn't have a shrine dedicated to a Mesoamerican deity, but it does have this eagle statue that I worship, if that counts. I'm gonna count it. Oh, and this building has a lot more variety in species. Looking from the inside out, if you can get past all the fogged up glass, look for motmots, the green jay, intruders that I'm pretty sure aren't supposed to be in here, maybe, and white-faced Saki monkeys, male and female. If you don't know much about them and you want to know which is which, the males are the ones that live up to the name. That is the C-shaped dry forest. Now turn around to face the C-shaped flooded forest. Supposedly the zoo's first major aquarium exhibit. 50,000 gallons of fresh water with South America's most famous so-called river monsters. Giant ocellated river rays, 3-foot-long pacus, dazzling red-tailed catfish, and the sleeky streamlined arapaima. I don't know if the water level in this tank changes based on the season like the one in Chicago does, but there is an interactive photo reel of the actual Amazon River, and if you turn a dial, the water will either rise or recede. If you head back outside, there to meet you is something I've seen a bunch of times and also haven't seen a bunch of times at the same time. Supposedly this is where you could feed freshwater rays and fish, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. The path leaves us no choice but to walk the boardwalk, revealing that the land of giants circles a pond, or a lake as the zoo sign refers to it. Usually when you see a pond, you also see a bunch of birds. 11 species, big and small, live at the zoo in this pond, but you might see a few welcome visitors on the guest list, which I quickly found out is not limited to just birds. If you're good at identifying animals from the thumbnail, you know that I've been desperate to show you guys the bold, the beautiful harpy eagle. I really wonder if they know how cool they actually are. In Greek mythology, a harpy is a wind spirit that carries the dead to Hades, lord of the underworld. They have the body of an eagle and the head of a woman. Yeah, that checks out. The title for the world's largest eagle is still up for grabs because there are a few eagles that are around the same size, and it really depends on the individual. If you look up lists, harpies are always in the top 5. Not everyone considers them top eagle in size, but a lot will say they are the most powerful. Like, imagine being a monkey and seeing those bad boys coming right at you. Even the communications director, Ron McGill, has something to say about them.
Seems like the feet were something that this bird had to grow into. It seems like it was born with just huge feet.
In the Cloud Forest exhibit, the jaguars can walk above the guest path. That's always cool to see, that we can't say that we haven't come across it before. The harpy eagles have something similar. Our path goes through the middle of the aviary, so you can feel the power from their wings if they choose to fly over your safe from harpy noggin. The zoo has built several platforms for them to nest on, but they went with a more private spot on these rocks. And yes, the zoo has successfully bred this vulnerable apex predator, which historically is not an easy thing to do. The zoo knew that having visitors move on from the harpy eagles would not be an easy thing to do. So to help, they placed the last exhibit right behind the harpies. So you are both looking at the speedster red-footed tortoise, critically endangered blue-billed curassows, and the hawk-headed parrot. Sadly, not in their final form, which looks like this, by the way. And that completes part 2 of Zoo Miami's Amazon and Beyond, arguably the country's premier representation of South American rainforests. I hope you enjoyed this rundown of the land of the giants, and hope you stay tuned for the finale as we make our way into the Atlantic forest. My name is Zach, and it was and always is a pleasure being your guide. Stay wild, and thank you all for watching Zoo Tours.